Hey there, it's Julie Hutchison here from Think Beat Do Leadership. And today we're talking about unleashing your brilliance, getting out there and being who you should be and who you are, and letting it rip out there. Because we should just get out there, shouldn't we? And let our expertise and let our amazingness be known to the world. And that's what I want to talk about, because it's coming up for Valentine's Day. Can't be that far away. No, it's 4 days. And so loving yourself is not a bad thing. And one of the things that I want to talk about today is how we're not always that good at being confident and loving ourselves, or loving who we are, or what our expertise is, and sending it out there. So maybe if you're listening to this, you are really good at what you do. Are you good at what you do? And maybe you're probably in a position where you have worked super hard, you've got lots of skill, and you are very good at what you do. Let's say technically expert at what you do, but maybe you don't speak up when you wish you would. Maybe you get overlooked and you don't actually say what you mean, perhaps in meetings or with colleagues. And sometimes you even maybe find yourself sort of sitting there going, well, I was thinking that when old Bob said it in front of you and or before you, and you never got a chance to say it. And it's so frustrating because you know that and you have an opinion, but it doesn't always come out in the way you want it to be. And that's really annoying. Put yourself forward maybe, and just wait for maybe a bit of permission or worry about what other people think about what you're going to do or say. And that's what we want to talk about today, because wouldn't it, that just sounds like an awful situation where you are being, let's use the word validated, externally validated for who you are. So it feels like you need permission sometimes. And actually, wouldn't it be much better if you didn't need permission? Not that you do, but if you didn't feel like you needed permission, or you felt like you could say what you wanted to who you wanted, and in a meeting or with your boss or with your team or whatever it might be, and that you were confident at communicating and showing your opinion and your brilliance, which would mean that you are more honest and authentic and open. You probably get more what you want. And you are going to be seen in the way that you truly are, which is that you're an expert in your field. Make sense? Wouldn't that be better? Well, what I'm talking about here is the confidence to unleash your brilliance. Okay, loving yourself, call it what you like, and taking up what I call internal validation. So knowing that you're good and being able to be confident enough to get that out there. That's what we're talking about today. And we've got probably 15 minutes, something like that, to get this going. So why is this important? Well, look, at the end of the day, if you are in a position where you are an expert and you are supposed to be sharing and people need what you've got and you're there because they need it, then you're no good to anybody if you don't say it. You're no good to anybody if you can't. Therefore, you're at risk if you do not have the ability to step up and unleash that brilliance, because there's a lot of competition out there. Depending on what job you're in, there's a lot of competition. And it means that if you're not doing the best job you can because you're not sharing your knowledge, sharing your expertise, and sharing your opinion to anybody who needs it, let's say, then you're not doing your job properly, and therefore it's at risk, because you need to be seen as the one who is necessary. Otherwise, we know that there's a lot of people in the last couple of years who have been deemed unnecessary. So we don't want that. So it's really, really important that you are able to articulate and communicate your brilliance to other people for the greater good, let's say. I'll give you an example. CTO in a business, just been promoted, was all doing the technical stuff, and now is in this position where they have to influence, and they're strategic, and they are being able to potentially influence the way in which an organization, which direction it goes in. However, they're not used to it. They don't know how to communicate. They're not used to saying and blowing their own trumpet, let's say, or they feel a little bit like, oh, nobody's listening and everybody's just chatting away around me and I'm not getting my point across here. And that's no good, because they're not going to be effective if we don't unleash our brilliance. In other words, allow ourselves to come out as expert, as authoritative, and as useful in whichever environment we're in. So really, really important. Why now? Well, at the end of the day, we have a lot of competition at the moment. You've got COVID, you've got interest rates going up, you've got difficult businesses, You've got all sorts of challenges. So you need to be the one who is going to be out there top of mind, so that people are looking and thinking, yep, do you know what? Who am I going to choose? Felicity again. You really are the person I need to listen to. And here's Katie. Hello, Katie. I'm talking about Felicity again, Katie, but in a different context. So what I'm saying is that we need to look at, how do we unleash this brilliance? Now, why am I talking about that? Well, other than I suppose I better unleash my brilliance, but but what I mean is that, when I first started in the working world, I was an engineer and done engineering at university and went into a technical field. But actually, I realised that people don't do what you want them to do because you're a good technician or a good engineer. They don't. They don't listen just because you're a good engineer. In fact, probably even less so. And so I suffered a little bit because I was like, oh, this is what needs to be. But actually, I realized that there's more to it than the technical aspects. There is the way in which you communicate, the way in which you show up, and the way in which you can articulate your value and what's the word I'm saying? Talk to people about the cause that you stand for. Sorry, I think what I'm saying then. And I realized that as I went through, because to be quite honest, when I left university and went to work for British bakeries making Hovis bread, and they didn't want to do what you wanted them to do unless they wanted to do it. And if you can't articulate why they should be doing it and influence in that way, they're not going to do it. And the same applies at every single level, particularly at the top, because if you can't influence, then you can't make changes happen. You can't make the things happen that you need to happen. So you are irrelevant and useless, let's say. Okay, so we know we need to do it. We know that it's important. Why am I sitting here? Well, because of that, I decided that all the way through my career that I was going to make sure that I learned about people development, understanding people, and communication. Now, I went on to work for Black & Decker, and I also worked for the police for 16 years. I was an inspector in Hertfordshire Police, and where better to learn some communication skills is with a whole host of society, let's say. So nowhere more important and more difficult sometimes than some of those environments. So that's why me. So, okay, we know what we need to do, but how do we do it? Well, today I want to talk about one particular aspect, and that is around this validation that I mentioned at the start, which is external validation. Because so often I see, and me included on many an occasion, and hands up, all of you that are listening live, or even if you're not, put it down there if you're not, is that we worry about what other people think, don't we? We worry about, oh, is this the right thing? Should I say this? What will they think? Am I rocking the boat? Or all sorts of things go through your mind and you think, oh, and we are often externally validated to a point where we're like, oh, I just don't want to say it because I know it's gonna be difficult. And the problem is that we have to feel like we are accepted sometimes. And what I want to look at is that actually, in fact, I've got a little slide I'm going to share just for a second. There you go. It's called The 6 Human Needs. It was Tony Robbins, I think. And he was talking about these 6 human needs, and I'm just going to whiz around them. First 2, because they're weirdly opposite, but I'll tell you why. Certainty and uncertainty. We all need to have stability and certainty in a life, but equally, we don't want to be bored, do we? So we need uncertainty. So those two are alternates. Let's say we swing between the two. But I'm not interested in those too much today. What I'm interested in is this one here, significance. Okay, so what Tony Robbins was saying, and I agree with, is that we all have an ego of some size or another, some more bigger than others, and some people need significance. Okay, but we also need connection. We need to feel like we belong, and again, to a lesser or more degree. And we need growth, and then lastly, we need contribution. You have to be useful to society, let's say. And again, some people need more than others. Now, think about it. If we're driven on ego, then we need to feel significant, let's say. That's one thing. But I think a lot of people in the sphere that I'm working in, are people who are technically expert, who are in maybe a leadership position or want to be in a leadership position, are actually working on something else. And I think this is where it's going to help, because when we are externally validated, we worry about what other people think. And that's our ego driving us, okay? Even if you've only got a little one. But it also is our connection, I think, driving us, because we need to feel like we belong. You know, like the old Thompson's gazelle in the TV programs in who is it, David Attenborough, isn't it? Where there's always one, isn't there, that's like falling behind, and that's the one the lion gets. Yeah. So we need to feel like belong because we're herd together and we want to feel safe and security, which brings us back to certainty and uncertainty. So all of those things, to me, in my mind, make me feel like I want to fit in, I want to belong, and I want validation, because then I'm part of the group. Yeah. And then I'm not the Thompson's gazelle that's hanging my backside out and getting bitten by the lion, let's say. Where did that come from? Anyway, so I wanted to look at this other side, which is the contribution, because most people want to have some level of contribution, and I want to talk to that at the moment. So if you're that kind of person, that's great. If you're not and you're just ego, then we're not gonna help you today. Let's just say, okay. So what I want to look at then is, if we have this need for contribution, then maybe we can help ourselves by stop focusing on what other people think of us and focus on the contribution that we give. Okay, so I'm going to just want you to hold that thought for a second. I'm going to take that slide off of here, but I want you to think about that contribution and look at it in a different way. And this is the piece that I want you to take away this afternoon. And that is, first of all, if we care about contribution rather than significance, then we can turn all of this on its head, because we don't have to worry about what other people think of us, because it's not about us. Does that make sense? And if it's not about us, we take the pressure off of us, and we can just unleash our brilliance for what it is and the contribution that we can give. Does that make sense? Now, I don't know about you, but if I feel like I'm contributing, let's say I'm sitting here helping you go through these things, I feel like I'm contributing. Yeah? I'm not doing it to make my ego bigger. I'm not stroking my ego. I'm actually doing it because I love to contribute. And this is what I'm talking about. If I was ego driven at this precise moment in time, I would be, wanting loads of likes and wanting you to all say, "Oh, you're wonderful, Julie." And that's not what this is about. This is about contribution. This is about giving value. And I know that so many of you are going to be in that space too. Oh, here comes the dog. Hi, Meg. Hopefully she doesn't make a lot of noise. No. And so what I'm talking about is, just do these things instead of worrying about what people think. So we turn the validation on its head. We've not externally validated. We're now going to be internally validated. And that is, first of all, focus number one is focus on the cause. What do I mean? Well, I'm going to shut that door. First of all, focusing on the cause means it's not about me. I'm focusing on something that I believe in. Okay, so what do you believe in about the role that you're in? So if you are that CTO I was talking about earlier on, if that's you, what do you believe is right in your role or in the thing that you're trying to influence people around? Okay, or if you're an archivist, Katie, a conservator in archive, what do you believe is the right thing? That's what I call the cause, the purpose, the reason why. And if you focus on that, you can't be focusing on yourself. Unless the cause is you, which would be a bit weird. You'd be on TikTok probably. So focusing on the cause immediately stops you worrying about, well, what about me and what do people think of me? Because we're not having a conversation about you. So we've taken that away from being about you. Okay, that's number one. Okay, and what that does is make sure that people are either with you or against you, because you've labelled your cause. Let's say you've labelled what you stand for. And if they say, that's a good thing, I'm going to stand for that too, they'll be with you. If they don't like it, well, that's fine, because it's like mint chocolate chip ice cream. Not everybody likes it. But when you really get somebody who likes it, you're going to share a bucket full. So you want to bring people with you without worrying about you personally. So focus on the cause. That takes away that validation need. Secondly, instead of focusing on you, focus on them. What do I mean? Well, I know what I stand for, and I'm going to focus on the cause. And now I want to link them to my cause. And if I want to do that, then I can unleash my brilliance, because all I'm doing is saying, what's in it for them? What do they need? Now, again, that focuses on contribution rather than significance. And so here we're saying, what do they need? So, Katie, I'm going to use you as a stooge because you're there. Katie says toothpaste ice cream is not the one. No, you're probably right. I'm with you on that course, Katie. So I've lost where I said now. Yeah, focus on them. So if, for example, Bob is really interested in, oh God, ice cream, let's say, then I'm going to focus on what Bob needs. What does Bob need? Well, maybe Bob needs to be heard. He needs to be heard about ice cream. So I'm going to listen to him. Or maybe Bob needs to let's go for his 6 human needs that we just brought up earlier on. Maybe Bob needs to feel significant, or maybe he needs to feel part of something and belonging. So I'm going to talk to one of those 6 human needs, or I'm at least going to think about, what does Bob need deep down? Underneath the surface, what does he need? What's his agenda? Why is he there? Now, the minute you do this, can you see that if you're busy doing that, you can't be thinking about yourself. You're not going to be worrying about, what do people think of me? So here, you're easily just going to be you. You're going to be that person who contributes, who cares about somebody else, who's listening to somebody else's needs, but is focused on the cause and the other person, and not worrying about whether anybody validates you or not, because you know what you stand for. You know that this is about a bigger thing than just you. So immediately, we don't have to worry about any of that stuff, and we can just be brilliant. And we can say what we think, because it's not linked to our ego, and it's not linked to whether or not we're a good person or any of those things, because we're focusing on the contribution, because we know the cause is important, and therefore we're going to focus on that. And we are going to listen to what the people in the room need, and we're going to give it to them. We're going to give them, or at least we're going to give the information in a way they need, or we're going to listen to and empathize with their needs. And when we're doing that, it's not about us. Can you see? So how would it feel if it wasn't even about you? It was about something much bigger. You're not going to worry, are you? You're not going to be sitting there thinking, does my bum look big in this? Or does my hair look all right today? Or have I got any grey hairs? Because you're talking about a bigger purpose. Although that's now made me think I've got some grey hairs. Anyway, and the last thing is, then take it back to that contribution, is reminding yourself, focus on contribution. What does this give? What does it give if I allow myself to speak up and say what I mean? What does it give if I allow myself to shine? What does it give if I can share my genius? Who benefits? See, it's not about me, it's that who else benefits. So the 3 things: focus on the cause, focus on the other person, and focus on the contribution. Nearly forgot what I was saying then. Focus on the contribution. And that will change a lot. Won't change everything, but what it means is you can be as amazing as you like, because you've got a darn reason to say something now that's bigger than yourself. Now, if you're an ego person, like I said, you probably said it anyway. So don't worry, this is for the contributors. I hope that's been useful. Remember that, because then you will not need external validation. You will focus on your cause, and you will be internally validated. Have a wonderful Valentine's Day in 4 days. And remember, you can love yourself, because you know that you give contribution, you have a cause, and you care. Have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Take care.